scale, which, well, religion in its ego would actually think it's actually the broader grand scale, when actually the higher power would be the black hole coming over to swallow the planet that actually has these souls that are, I guess you'd say, living on their afterlife. Unless they're living on their afterlife on another planet.
Wow, crazy. What's your take on that, Bon?
Well, in the study of the occult, we recognize multiple levels of existence. So you have your physical body, you have your astral body, you have what you would most likely refer to as your mind, your thoughts and whatnot, and then you have your spirit, which is anything below spirit has its time. And so when after physical death, your astral body doesn't disintegrate necessarily right away. So you can still have consciousness that's tied into the astral body and moving around either the lower astral, which is where you get a lot of your haunts, or on the higher realms of the astral into the ethereal, which is where people get their idea of heaven. But ultimately, you have to transcend all these things because they do eventually wind down. And just like the physical body dies and disintegrates over a long span of time, so does the astral body break down and higher levels up into
Bon,
eternal levels.
would you say you're a little bit more of a spiritual immortalist, I guess you say purist like me, a little bit more of a traveler from here and there?
Yeah, I exist simultaneously in multiple realms. So I'm here in this realm, but my consciousness also exists elsewhere simultaneously. I'm not a human soul, so this just happens to be a world that I'm visiting at the time. But yeah, yeah, it's just, I'm reaching a tentacle into this realm, so to speak, just to see what's going on here. But I also have other bodies and other existences in realms that have form and some that don't, and ultimately in the realm, for lack of a better word, the realm of spirit, which is really, what underpins reality. It's beyond form and beyond time.
Okay. Don, really quick, going back to the energy part, the difference between somebody that's living, the living energy that a person has compared to dead, we were talking about earlier, and dead energy.
Necrotic, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's the difference between the two?
What's really interesting for me, I can actually kind of smell it. It's kind of like this whole psychosomatic response system that I've actually developed myself. I've actually created these types of responses to where I can actually, in a sense, have this signal of a smell, whatever I recognize by my kind of, I guess you'd say, subconscious types of readings of people. People tend to drop their faces, in other words, and reveal themselves right away to me. That's just one of those energies that I've kind of created as a construct, So it's kind of like this flashlight. And when my flashlight beam basically just hits you, if you're kind of a crappy person, your face is just going to drop for me, pretty much. And I see this, and the energies are there. And the funny thing is I consider certain people part of the butthurt brood.
I know a lot of them, dude.
And please understand, I've been trying to keep this whole conversation a little bit more slang-like because I tend to, in other words, speak a little bit more like as if I was in a temple or something, you know what I mean? But no, getting back to it, let's just say I'm down over at like a Payless shoe, store or something like that. Okay, let's break this real down to where everyone can relate, right? I'm in a Payless shoe, store, right? Watching someone purchase something. And next thing you know, the girl's just having a bad day, but she's part of the butthurt brood, you know what I mean? And you walk up, and she's just got the energy, and you're just like, ah. So you have to put your shields up and things like that, but my natural flashlight is just like, boo, and all of a sudden their face just drops. It's really kind of funny. It's like hitting them with a mazer. You gotta come out with me sometimes. It's really funny. And then it's just their energies, you know what I mean? And the funny thing is eventually later on, sometime down the line, you know what I mean, especially if this person was meant to cross you or anything like that, for some reason they will actually gravitate towards other people who are part of what you consider the butthurt brood. And, you'll kind of recognize their non-progression, their decay.
Wow, that's great.
You get a few of those, right?
Yeah, I get a lot of those. What about you, Bon? What about you, Bon?
That's true. I mean, like tends to congregate with like. So I've noticed amongst the whole spectrum of human personality types that they tend to congregate where they are comfortable, which is usually amongst like-minded individuals, like-energied individuals. Because psi energy, again, it's broadcast, and whether you know you're sensing it or not, you're reacting to what's around you. That's why a person with a really bad energy can infect a whole room with their energy, because
Right.
they're spreading the misery. You can also spread, good energy around as well.
Mhm.
I would imagine that, like, the best way to break down a closest analogy or something like that would be sort of like the chemical nature of pheromones,
Right.
and how there's this attraction and such, and also something that would cause people to detract away from each other. But I find that I guess the energy isn't like that when people cannot get a hold of it and they actually let it rule them.
Mm-hmm.
They're going towards their ego, but at the same time they're sufficing their id as well, majorly filling their id.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When it comes to like those types of people and everything else, I can understand what you're saying in that level. And when it comes to that, when you walk in the room, there's that the butthurt clan and everything else and stuff like that. But how does one get through that and everything? Is it one just to leave alone and that sort of thing, or you just kind of just let the whole thing take its toll?
One was to actually try to step in. I have found that, or intervene, I've found that it can actually lead to a lot more trouble. So it's interesting is watching people being led astray and actually going into their own personal hell for a little while. and it's not that you're trying to be a douche or anything like that. You're just trying to give them some slack because they're going to pull you down, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my rules is to not be amongst the afflicted,
Mm-hmm.
And within my personal group, I do tend to ask for some degree of excellence, at one point,
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has to be able to bring something to the table that's going to be towards progression versus decay.
Mm.